Must be an on button here somewhere. Oh, top. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. These musicians are ministers in themselves. Um, they follow a pattern that goes way back to the ancient Sufis, the whirling dervishes that and the poets that spoke about love. And it's believed that some people believe that Dante Alighieri, who was part of the Fideli di Amore, it was a secret society of poets and bards some scholars believe that the Sufis and the Dante and other poets and singers were communicating at that time. And the idea was to talk about the truth of what the prophets and the masters were talking about, which is basically love. That God resides in each one of us, so that as we love each other, we are literally loving God. And as we allow ourselves to be loved, we are given the gift of our own consciousness. The greatest gift that it could ever be given, the greatest gift that could ever be asked for, is that we are one. We are one with our Creator, and we are co-creators. So that's why I love the music. And Daniel Namod, the first song I asked Bill to put it up loud because that's the way he sings. I've been with him several times, and he does not hold back. I'm telling you. In fact, he told us one time, the doctor told him, if you keep doing this, you're going to lose your voice. Well, this was like over 10 years ago. He's still singing, and he's doing quite well at that. And Kalyani she's the one that introduced me to the Way of Mastery probably 12 or 13 years ago. She was a guest singer at our service, and I thought everything she sang about was on principle. It was like right in tune with, the heart space. I can't use this microphone here so don't tap my chest. Um, and I said, where do you get your inspiration? She said, well, from the Way of Mastery. Before that was A Course in Miracles. So she gave me the first part of the book of the Way called The Way of the Heart. And the moment I opened that book and started reading, I felt the presence of something really powerful. Some people called it Jesus. So I'm not a Christian. I'm interfaith. It's like, how can you pick? It's all God. Um, so, but Kalyani's, to me, she's what I would call Jeshuan. She is inspired by Jesus. She is she's part of the lineage, I guess you'd say. And I would offer that everyone here is some part of the lineage of Christ consciousness. To me, there's no coincidence. There's no mistake that you are here now. And I'm up here to serve as a reminder of who you are. That if you know me, then you know God. And the only way that you can know me is if you know yourself. Know thyself. Which brings me to the point of this talk. To thine own self be true. Thine own capital S self be true. As Shakespeare, I think, he was probably in with those poets and bards of the time. So in Hamlet, the Polonius, I think, I forget his actual name. I was more stuck on what he said. This above all, he says, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. To thine own self be true. Now, I don't know about you, but I spent many years being true to everybody but me. I did what I thought I had to do, which was part of it. It was okay, duty bound. We have that in our culture. And at some point, I discovered that to be true to myself was to be true to God. And to be true to God was to love my neighbors and to learn that every single one of you is a fabulous teacher. You teach me, and I am reveling in that which you have to offer. And as I've gotten to know some of you more and more, my mind is more and more blown. You carry a treasure within your heart, and I would offer that that self to which humanity is awakening, claiming and embodying, that be in you, is something that you'll miss if you're focusing upon and conforming to the world, or watching TV. Or there's a lot going on right now. It is the undoing of the illusion that we are separate, and it looks chaotic. But what's happening is that what we see on the world stage is offering us daily a choice. Shall we choose for love or for fear? And we're getting plenty of evidence that we should dive into fear, because look what's happening. I'm telling you, folks, if you don't believe me, just ask me. I'll tell you again. It hasn't been any better before now. This is a point of awakening. We are in epochal. It's epic, epical. The times, they are a changing, and they are it is now. It is happening now. We are awakening. Humanity is awakening to its divine nature, and it's simple. It's simply the moment to moment choice that we have to embrace. Embrace that which lies within. Embrace the divine nature that we are. And as we sometimes, as because we're human, we succumb to fear. Those moments become less and less. We transition through that fear into love faster than we had before. That's because things are indeed speeding up. There's scientific proof of that, but I am not a scholar, and I don't aspire to be. I'm just, to me, if I can't keep it simple, then I get too complicated for my own mind, and who needs that? So, where were we? Transformed by the renewing of your mind. That blew my mind, Eva, that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I had written down. The Apostle Paul wrote that ended up in the book of Romans. And to me, that's one of the things that I think about when the vision statement comes on the screen, is we are spirit expressing. And to me, I would put a full stop period there. We are spirit expressing. I don't think, to me, we're not transforming for good. We are already good. We are already all of what God has offered. And we are waking up to that. So if we're already good, and change does happen, because we're always hungry for more. That's part of our human nature. Even when we are content and filled with the Spirit of God, we remain hungry, which is why Jesus said in his famous prayer, give us this day our daily bread, because he knew that we would always be hungry for more. And of course, he spoke in metaphor. But around here, it's literal, because Susan brings the bread, for which we all hunger. But the simplicity and the joy of that is what gets me. And so what I know, having tested upon myself, I'm using myself as a living experiment. Let's see what happens. Sometimes it turns out good, and sometimes it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But I live to tell. I mean, there's times when that might not have happened. What I know, having tested upon myself that which was taught to me by various teachers over the course of this earthly experience, there is God and nothing. That's it. Okay, that's it. See ya. But, but the thing is, in this world that we are all somewhat conformed to because we're humans, um, the world is set up. I think it's all part of the play of God, God's lila, that duality has arisen. Now, if there's only God, and God decided to experiment with duality, okay, we got that one. Duality is that there's God and not God. Duality is that there is love and fear, and that fear has some substance to it, that it has something behind it that was divinely created. Well, I think it was in our imagination because we wanted to experiment with this thing called life. Where are its outside parameters? How far does God extend? And so when we came up with fear, we thought, well, okay, there's no God there because it's fear. Well, there's only fear because we have divine imagination. We can experience that which is what we call evil, only because of the love of God gave us free will to experience that which we will. We are not marionettes, although sometimes I wish I was, because it'd be, let somebody else do it for a while. This responsibility thing can get old. I got to do what? Oh, yeah. Anyway, so, it's not possible that there is not God. For if there were a field of not God, it would require, um, it would have to be funded by the only power, the omnipotent absolute, out of which all things emerge. So the field of not God would have to be possible through the one presence, the one power. That's why I like the way Namad makes, it's so joyful the way he expresses the one presence and the one power. Um, and so for me, it's not theory. This is the reality that I have chosen to allow, and that I am, and we are divine in nature. And so, of course, like everyone, sometimes I forget, and then but quicker and quicker and quicker now, and see this in yourself, you return to center sooner than you might have in years past. And to dive into the mystical experience of the presence of the absolute sometimes can be disconcerting because it's so opposed to everyday life in the world. And there have been times when I thought, I must be nuts, and it's a little humbling to recognize, yeah, I'm nuts. But I'm okay with that. And so that's the thing is, be okay with who you are and what you're going through. And sometimes it feels a little wobbly. That's that's our ticket in. But the earth is it's our home. The earth loves us. The creator that exists within every particle of physicality is pure love. And as I open up to that, I think, how am I going to function in the world? How can you be a grounded mystic? How can you keep doing what feels like it needs to be done? And that's one of the things I'm grateful for. I was called to become a carpenter when I was 19, and I've stuck with it ever since. And what I learned, the most important thing I learned, is keep your fingers out of the way when you're hammering a nail. It requires presence. And I think that was such a gift. Um, so in reality, nothing is forced upon us. We have free choice, as Eva was talking about. Free will, choice. Where do you want to put your attention? Now, one of the things that one of those wise guys said, I don't know if it was Mo, Larry Curly, or one of them, he said, our beliefs are ours to choose. And if your beliefs are not working for you, you could choose again. His beliefs are thoughts. They are not written in stone or carved in stone, although they can be, and it's a lovely thing to see something like faith carved in a solid rock. It's a metaphor for who we are. So our beliefs are our choices, and we have free will, despite what the world will tell you. And the world is really talking loud right now, but hey, it's theater, folks. When you get to a certain point, you realize that. I mean, I'm not saying don't do the things that you want to do. I mean, when you feel like the world is not going the right way, then listen to your heart. But if you go then and act out of fear and anxiety, instead of bringing peace and compassion and understanding to the world, you're literally promoting anxiety and fear. So that's not saying don't be an activist. Geez, I was involved with the Interfaith Council for years in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and most of the people, 98% of the people there were activists, frontline activists, and they were amazing. Two of them were nuns that had been at it since they were in their 20s, and they were like in their 70s, and it was a way of life. But they had a couple of the people there had learned how to come from the heart and then offer their love to the world and speak their truth, which people often don't want to hear. What's all this love stuff? I mean, we got to get out and fight. And some of the people in the group, I noticed, they were simply promoting fear. And so I would offer that you take a look within before you act in the world. Get right with your soul. Get right with love within, and then weave your baskets and carry a sign if that feels good to you, or get up and speak. Heaven forbid. I think the first time I spoke, I was so nervous I wanted to disappear into the wall behind me. I thought, oh my God, I live by the saying, it's better to be silent and thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So anyway, but then here, I mean, in places like this, you know that you're loved. And people I believe in New Thought and some other groups, they want to support you. We want to support each other, and we're willing to have us make mistakes, because it's what we do. But that doesn't define you. Your mistakes don't define you. Like the little sign in the restaurant, don't bother me, I'm making mistakes as fast as I can. And that's okay. It is human. So we lose our authority when we blame anyone or anything for what's happening in the world. Now that includes the present administration. Now, some people love what's happening and some people don't. But if you blame anything out there for what you're feeling inside, you lose your authority. You lose your own power. Now look at, as an example, Jesus had it. He didn't have it any easier. I mean, look, he had the Romans that took over the land. And he had the hierarchy of the Jewish hierarchy, blessings be upon them. A lot of them were caught up in, how do I look today? And is my beard properly combed? And, do I look the part of the authority? He had all that going on. And then he had, it was from the studies that I've done, the world at that time, the culture at that time was crime ridden. It was not a happy time. And the taxation was such that if you couldn't pay your taxes, they would take your children. Can you imagine? You know, so that was Jesus's time. So using him as a role model of what's possible, take him off the pedestal of God's only son, because we are God's only son, daughter. We are the creation, the one ship, the sonship, the one thing that God has created. We are all of that. And so the mistake, and Jesus was saying that all along, I and the Father are one, and so are you. And then, of course, that got kind of edited out. The so are you part, that gives you too much power over the tax man or the authority of the time. Oh, I've completely lost my place here. Uh, so so I recognize that what I need is abundantly available. And that's kind of a stretch when you're not feeling abundant. But in truth, in the book of Thomas, which was banned, if you were caught with the book of Thomas, you could be killed after 400 AD. And so the book of Thomas and others were placed, the book of Mary Magdalene, oh my God, uh, uh, a gospel according to a woman? And now they were pissed about that, because even the disciples were jealous of her, because she's the only disciple that he kissed on the lips. How about them apples? And so when Christianity was moved over into the patriarchal system of the Romans, they didn't want to have women being powerful. Ladies, welcome back. You are powerful. You are what makes this world possible. It's true. Yeah. So, so when we learn to ask and listen and receive, we prove to ourselves that abundance is ours for the asking. But you have to, I can't do this for you. Nobody can do, Jesus can't do it for you. Great role model, but only you can receive for yourself that which you within yourself need. And one of the ways that we prove this to ourselves is by offering to others what they have declared that they need whenever possible. Susan does this all the time. She's giving what people need. And so at the same time, she's giving to herself in divine ways. And that's how we prove. See, you got to be a scientist here, you know. You need to prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Jesus's word for it. Prove it to yourself. What are you capable of? You're capable of love. You're capable of giving. You're capable of receiving. Oh my God. You know, it took me like, no, I'm not worthy. Yes, you're worthy. Oh man. So, I mean, really, some of the old monks, and I think they still do it. One of my first, most incredible teachers had been a Trappist monk for 17 years. And he ended up being the head of the philosophy department at the community college that I went to for a while. And as a Trappist monk, you did not indulge in earthly pleasures. They would put ashes in their food so it wouldn't taste good. They would be woken up at all hours during the night so that they didn't get a comfortable good night's sleep. And they were sleeping probably with one blanket on a hard slab anyway. And they would literally whip themselves, you know, for like, so, and then Joseph, my teacher, he had taken a 5-year vow of silence. Can you imagine? You could say yes or no, but you didn't have a conversation for 5 years. And then he realized that, wow, this monastery is like for escapists. He said most of the people there were just trying to get away from having to live in the real world, which is not easy. I mean, oh God, do I miss those days of get up, pray, float in the clouds. Um, but anyway, I digress. So he ended up being the one. I have never met a wiser man or a more loving person, a more well read person, truly a scholar. But it came from the heart. And what I realized was that all my self-flagellation wasn't getting me anywhere. So I learned to ease up. I mean, literally, I would whip myself with a belt, thinking, "Well, that's what the books did. I guess it's good, you know." But then, in the tradition, like Jesus, when he was up on the cross, he had already been to India, studied with the masters there. He learned how to leave his body when need, and so he didn't feel pain. He purposely didn't feel pain. And if this is something, if you want to study, there's this information is available through Oak Ridge University, The Way of Mastery, and other places. Um, so I learned to not feel the pain when I whip myself. I was like, oh, okay. So what's the point in that? It's like, okay, what else can I do? Um, so you could try cold plunging. I have not learned how to not get cold when I've jumped in cold water, as Diane will tell you. On the, on the first, I joined Diane in the polar bear plunge, and oh my God, that's cold. I don't know if I'll do it again, but we'll see. Okay. So what I realize is that these papers, I didn't number them again. So um, okay. So what we want to do is live in today's. I'm suggesting that this is what we want to do, is to live in today's world with practical application of spiritual principle. How can I do this in a practical way? How can I maintain my union with God and still do the things I need to do? To be on time at places, to fix things that are broken, to do my laundry, to help a friend, change the tire. I was with a gal, she was so good about, such a good cook, and she would make all this wonderful stuff, and I'd have my dinner, and then I'd say, well, honey, can you go out and change the oil in the car now that you've completed the dinner? And then to change the tires, I need to have them rotated. She didn't think it was funny. She does now, but she didn't then. So the ongoingness of creation, the unchanging, absolute, eternal principle reveals itself in new ways and new forms, because God is anything but bored. So new things are going to come up all the time. And we get to use our God-given intelligence to deal with what's coming up. So I would offer that we are simply spirit expressing. Spirit expressing. What more could you ask for? We are already good. Life is good. So anyway, the capital S self, to thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. And when things come up that are challenging, know that this too shall pass. We are the leading edge of transformation. It's just the way it is. And so the good passes, what we call the good. It's all good. It's all life. The challenges will pass. The celebration will pass. The flow. I want to be like water. That's what I love about that song. Be the flow. Be the flow. Enjoy the moment. Give God the satisfaction of loving itself through you, as you. And then when there's a blank space, go, okay, God, now what? And you'll be surprised that you won't after a while, but the Lord will answer. The simplicity of our highest power, our capital S self, being true to the moment as it arises. as it arises. So I would suggest that you embrace your amazing, miraculous self, woven of pure love, allowing the windows of heaven to open upon you, pouring out divine blessings, your daily bread. So I would like to take a moment now to do a brief meditation, during which you may wish to close your eyes and you may wish to continue to breathe. So in conscious awareness, be behind your eyes, allowing yourself to just be. And then declare to yourself, I hear, I am heard. I see, I am seen. I know, I am known. I give, I am given. I receive, I am received. I love, I am loved. I heal, I am healed. I destine, I am destined. I am my highest affinity, my highest good. I am that I am. Amen. So it is. So we have like a few more minutes, and of course there's no such thing as time. Anybody have anything they would like to share? Any tomatoes they would like to throw? I'll give you a moving target. Prem Daya. Oh, the little microphone is over here.
Well, I think I just had a little mini epiphany that thine own self be true. As I think of all, when I think about that, I go, okay, what's true for me? And then it's like Karen, Premdaya, Wajida, all the names I've ever had, and whatever. No, my own self be true. That true being that I am the one expressing. That's who I need to be true to. Not in the moment, oh, I'm so sad, I want to cry, I'm feeling lonely or whatever, though that may need to be said at some point, realizing if I'm really being true to myself, I am love expressing. Yeah. Thank you. I think I got it.
Hallelujah. Alhamdulillah.
First of all, thank you for your message this morning. My brain operates on funny things sometimes. And joy for me is just ordinary yeses, generally. So in the middle of whatever manure, I grew up in the country.
You're right.
Just ordinary yeses. Where is the yes for me here? And there's fear, false energy, appearing real. Oh, it's not a snake. That's the hose I left out in the yard. And I know you're all familiar with the Boston Pops. One of my favorite things about making mistakes is they were recording the Boston Pops in this big production. And they had the camera up in the sound booth. And you'd hear the conductor would go back to, measure number something. And in the sound booth, you'd hear take, and they got to take 23. The Boston Pops, 23 takes to get it right the way that the conductor wanted.
I love it.
So maybe we could be a little more kind of passionate with ourselves.
Yes.
Over something.
Yes. Yeah.
Take it.
Groundhog Day.
Infinite number of takes that we can have. That's the wonder of joy, the great yes. God is the great yes, says yes to us. Anyone else? So be careful what you claim, because God will say yes. Whatever you claim, after you say I am.
You have two more acronyms.
Very quick.
God giving our destiny. And fear, false evidence appearing real.
Well, I would.